Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart, a podcast where we talk openly and honestly with the goal of normalizing mental health conversations. I'm MommaFoxFire, and I am so grateful you're here listening today. This episode is one that I'm really excited to share. We are diving into a topic that isn't talked about enough, and that's selective mutism. My guest is Brittany Krystantos, a best-selling author, mental health advocate, and motivational speaker who has turned her personal struggles into powerful advocacy. Selective mutism is an anxiety-based condition where a person who is fully capable of speaking feels unable to do so in certain situations. It often shows up in early childhood and can be incredibly isolating. Imagine being surrounded by people who assume you're just shy or difficult when, in reality, anxiety is gripping you so tightly that speaking feels impossible. For Brittany, this was her reality from infancy until age 7. What I love about Brittany's story is that it's not just about overcoming the struggle. It's about using her experience to help others. She has taken her journey from silence to becoming a voice for those who feel unheard. She's written a book, spoken on stages, and inspired countless others who are battling anxiety, depression, and self-doubt. In this conversation, Brittany opens up about what it was like to grow up with selective mutism, how it impacted her relationships and self-worth, and how she ultimately found her voice. We also talk about the role mental health support systems, like understanding educators and supportive family members, can play in helping someone through this condition. If you've ever felt misunderstood or struggled with anxiety that made it hard to express yourself, this episode is for you. Brittany's story is raw, honest, and incredibly inspiring. And as always, I want to remind you that you're not alone in whatever you're facing. There are resources and communities out there to support you, and this podcast is one small part of that. Thank you for being here and for being part of this conversation. Let's get into it. Okay, I've got to fix one more thing.
No worries.
Every now and then Discord is like, I'm going to flip-flop the order that everything appears in, and so I have to go in and fix it. Otherwise, you would be MommaFoxFire and I would be Brittany, and that's not how this is. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another Mental Health Monday. Thank you guys so much for being here on Even Tacos Fall Apart. I'm really excited for tonight's conversation. I think it's going to be a really great one. We do have a question queue open if you have any questions about the topic tonight, which our topic tonight is selective mutism, which is something we have not talked about before. We're going to talk about Brittany's path from adversity to advocacy. So really excited to have Brittany joining us. Brittany, thank you so much for being here and just taking the time out of your evening.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this. Mental health is so important to me, and I believe we need more awareness with mental health, and I'm really happy to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm going to tell you all a little bit about Brittany, and then we will get going. But if you have questions... Oh, wait. Did I actually open the queue? Hold on. Let me see. Yes, I did. Okay, it is open. We're good. If you have any questions for Brittany, feel free to pop them into the chat, !Q, follow that with your question. That'll put it into a question queue, and we will make sure to get them addressed while we are here and live. So Brittany Krystantos is a best-selling author, mental health advocate, motivational speaker, TED Talk presenter, and the host of a mental health series. She is widely recognized for her significant impact in the field. Overcoming challenges such as selective mutism in her early years, she transformed her personal journey of anxiety and depression into a profound commitment to helping others. At the age of 15, Brittany authored the acclaimed book, I Am Not Your Average Teen, offering insights, hope, and practical strategies for navigating the complexities of mental health. With a mission to make a meaningful difference in countless lives, Brittany continues to inspire individuals to overcome their own challenges. Her journey from silence to happiness serves as a guide for those seeking to find their voice and navigate the intricacies of well-being. And I've got a few ways you can connect with her. We've got website, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So I'm going to post those for you guys. If you want to connect, make sure you go say hi, give her a follow, give her a couple likes, a couple of comments, all those engagement type things.
Me.
Yep.
Hey, say hi.
Absolutely.
Let's talk. Be friends.
100%. So again, Brittany, thank you so much for being here and joining us tonight.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
And we do have a question in the question queue already. Bite Mark would like to know, what is your favorite poem?
My favorite poem. I don't know if I have a favorite poem. Oh my God. Honestly, I don't know.
I happen to know that she also accepts things like favorite songs, which are poetry in and of themselves. So, favorite song or anything like that?
Favorite song. I'm gonna go to my recent song list and I can tell you my favorite song I've been listening to right now.
There we go. That's
not
perfect. Hey, absolutely it counts. Anything.
right now. Kelly Clarkson, "Dance with Me" has been on the playlist. That's my hype song, my happiness hype song.
Hey, everyone needs a happiness hype song. I like that. Perfect. I'm sure I've heard that song because I do love Kelly Clarkson. I think she's one of the few vocalists that could literally do anything these days. But I can't quite think of how that one goes. So I'm gonna have to listen to it after this for sure. Now, I listed off a bunch of things that you do, and I want to start by asking, what do you enjoy doing when you're not busy with your work or sharing your story or writing or anything like that?
Well, I love taking daily walks lately because I'm in Canada and the weather is getting cold now. So I'm kind of utilizing like the fall weather right now. So I've been taking a lot of daily walks with my dog, cuddling with my dog, and reading books. I am a total book lover. Recently, I've been reading a special book from a special friend. It's called Speak Love to Me, and it's about men's love language. Author's D. Calloway, and it's a really interesting book about men's love language and like how to like save a lasting relationship and like what men want. It's really cool. Another thing is I love romance books. That's another thing that people don't know about me. I love romance books. And I'll be reading romance books versus like self-help books. But honestly, this book over there is really interesting. So I loved it and it was incredible. But daily walks, I said, reading books, and honestly, just yoga, working out. Like, I'm not that fun. Like some people like have a fun life. I'm not a fun person, so that's fun for me.
You know what? Reading books and doing yoga and taking walks sounds like fun. I don't know what you
really
mean.
Those people are like, oh yeah, I do yoga and I read books, and like they don't, but like I swear to God, I do that. Like that's my life. I don't go out much. Like
Yeah,
even
yeah.
like people in Halloween parties, they're like dressed up, and I haven't gone to Halloween party. I've just been chilling at home and keeping my peace.
Yeah. Hey, there's something to be said for that. And you know what you like. There's nothing wrong with knowing what you like and doing what you enjoy and what brings you comfort. So I also like, well, I don't know if I would call the books that I read romance, but along that vein of books, do you have a favorite romance book?
So I have to go to my Kindle because I like what I do is like I'll literally read books on Kindle Unlimited and then I'll like get rid of it. But
Yeah, I do the same thing.
I don't remember favorite books. It just goes through. But
Yeah.
I love the author Abby Glynns, and she has like I love like to go your question about like crime, but I love romance crime books, and so she has a series where like it's like the mafia at a ranch, and like girl gets kidnapped kind of thing, and they fall in love. Very different from mental health. I know.
No, I get it. I read that kind of book all the time. What was the last name?
Abby Glynns, Glinnes, is the author, and the book. Well, the book I'm reading right now is called Storm. It's a whole. I think it's like 9 books.
Okay.
Each book is a different brother in this mafia on a ranch.
All right. For some reason, that's not pulling up on Goodreads, but I will have to find it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I was spelling Abby wrong. That's what it was.
Yeah, ABBI.
ABBI. Yep. Okay. Well, I'm going to post a link to her author page, just if anyone is interested in checking that out, because that does sound actually right up my alley. So I'll go check that one out for sure.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk a little bit about true crime. Do you have a true crime story that fascinates you?
I don't.
No,
Sorry,
no true crime story. That's okay.
I don't have a true crime that I No, I don't.
Yeah. I mean, listen, fictional crime sometimes is more fun to read about anyway. Do you have a favorite podcast or anything like that, or game or movie that you wish more people would take the time to read or watch?
Favorite movie would be Marvel. I love the Marvel series. I'm a total nerd. I will watch the Tony Stark movies all the time. He's Iron Man is my favorite. Ultimately, my favorite movies. I love superheroes. I love the nerdiest stuff you can think of. I'm a total nerd. Favorite. What was the last question?
Oh, just
Favorite.
podcast or yeah,
I love Call Her. Yeah, I think it's super funny.
it is a really good
And
one.
good podcast. I love that. So that's one. Yeah, I love like honestly, I'm not the type to watch Love Is Blind and like reality shows. I'll be watching like Marvel movies and superheroes and all that stuff. So that's my go-to.
Yeah. Call Her Daddy, for those who haven't listened to that, it's funny, but they get very serious and they talk about things to a depth that's like I learned something listening to that whole conversation. So if you haven't listened to
Hmm.
that one, definitely go give that one a shot because it's really, really great.
It's really great. It's funny. It's meaningful.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Our topic tonight is selective mutism. So I want to, and also just your general story as well, but I want to get into the selective mutism piece of it. Can you share a little bit about what it was like growing up with selective mutism and maybe how that impacted your relationships or your everyday life?
Well, growing up with selective mutism was a really hard thing because, well, first of all, the less than 1% of the population has selective mutism, and it's a really rare. Basically, let me explain this, what selective mutism is. I think people need to hear that. Basically, what it is that it's a really hard anxiety condition where the person can speak but chooses not to speak. And so I had that growing up from baby to 7 years old. I could speak, but I didn't want to. I was scared to. So
Mm.
you think about it like this, where in moments in your life where you feel voiceless and you feel like, you're not able to express yourself, whether you're in a bad relationship or you're in a bad place in your life. That's how it felt as a kid, not being able to express yourself, being afraid to express yourself. So to ask me, what was it like to live with selective mutism? Well, it was frightening and it was isolating and it was so scary because I had no idea why I felt like that. I just knew that I was afraid to speak. My parents took me to doctors and hearing specialists and all these different things, and I always passed the test with like number 10. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
incredible at hearing. I had no hearing problem, which made them realize that she has selective mutism, and so I would hide in a crowd and behind my mom. I would talk a few words to my parents, and even family members. I wouldn't talk to them. And so growing up with that definitely was hard. And then obviously as an adult, these now who obviously has overcome selective mutism, and my friends say I don't shut up ever. Sorry for my language. There are times in my life though where I will, question what I'm saying, or I don't stand up for myself, and maybe that's because I'm a people pleaser and I always want to, make people happy. But definitely know that living with selective mutism has affected my adulthood, my teen years, and who I've been and what I've gone through in my life. And so, yes, hopefully that answered that.
Yeah. So do you think that growing up just with that kind of fear and anxiety around speaking, do you think that it gave you a better understanding or empathy for others who might be experiencing anxiety? Like I know so I guess when I was growing up, it wasn't really common to name that you were having anxiety or anything like that. I know now it's a lot more common to have kids who are able to articulate, actually, I'm having a lot of anxiety right now. Did that give you more empathy towards someone who might be experiencing anxiety in high school or after or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, that gave me a lot, first for me, it gave me a lot of anxiety in high school. I actually never did presentations. I would have to do it in front of the teacher all the time. I couldn't do it in front of the class. So
Mm.
having that definitely affected my anxiety. But like you said, a lot of people now say, oh, I have anxiety. I have anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I have anxiety today. And there's a fine line between what is anxiety and what is severe anxiety for sure.
Yeah.
But back in the day, for sure, people don't talk about anxiety and mental health. I'm Gen Z, but I'm from the Gen Z generation. But when I was in high school, which was over 10 years ago already, there wasn't mental health awareness. So I can only imagine what it was like for my parents and parents' generation. But for my generation, there was no mental health awareness. There was no speaking about it. And so I felt very alone. I had a lot of shame in what I was going through. And, coming from the fact that it wasn't just, hey, I have depression now, but growing up the way I did had a lot of big effect on where I was as a teenager and how I felt and stuff like that. And like for my parents, there wasn't awareness, right? Like they didn't know what to do. And so
Sure.
I can't blame them for how they acted or how they didn't act, because mental health is evolving every day, and their generation, my generation didn't have it. So
Yeah. I know when my youngest was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, it was like I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing about it. And then all of a sudden I was dealing with this, and it's like, okay, thank God the internet is there for me to
yeah,
go and research all of this stuff. And there's such a wealth of information. And they have done now so many different things, as far as research into different conditions and everything. They make it publicly available. You can go and read all the studies because they're available online. That wasn't always the case. So it's like, parents, especially 10, 15, 20 years ago, couldn't go and just be like, oh, let me Google this real quick and let me see what information is out there.
exactly. There wasn't ChatGPT, there wasn't
Yeah.
Google, there wasn't that, so it was hard. But now it's great that people are talking about it, and people, it's evolving as a society.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Of course, nowadays the internet will also make you think you have every illness in the DSM. That is, Growling, that's a really good point, because you can definitely go on and be like, it's the WebMD lookup, right? You're going to go on and you're going to be like, I cut off my pinky toe. And they're going to say, wow, you have cancer, you're dying next week. Like that's sometimes you get the other extreme. So
Yeah.
you do have to definitely have to balance, like, what information are you seeking versus what information, when you find, are you willing to critically think about and decide if it's accurate. Yeah,
Especially
for sure.
me, a hypochondriac over here. So many times I have like a headache and I think I'm dying of cancer, and I go to my doctor. I'm like, hey, doctor, whatever her name is, I'm not going to say it on here, but I have a headache, or my heart's racing. Should I go get a heart test? She's looking at me. She's like, Brittany, come on. What did you read on Google now? Like,
Yep.
so.
Yeah, most definitely. Are there a lot of like particular misconceptions around selective mutism that you dealt with when you were growing up?
Definitely, there was a lot of misconceptions. I mean, for me, it was hard because no one understood why I wasn't speaking. And so people around me started treating me differently because they started to get like used to the fact that, hey, she's a shy kid. And I definitely, felt like an outcast. And my sister was 3 years older than me. Growing up, she was always the extrovert, always at karate classes, have so many friends. And I had one friend, and I would like whisper to, like, it wasn't like on a talking basis. It was like a whisper vibe, but like I had one friend. And so the misconception definitely was the fact that I was treated differently because I was different. I also felt like I wasn't good enough, and I felt invisible. And I always loved Harry Potter because Harry Potter had that invisible cape, and I always felt like that was me. And so I felt invisible for a lot of time, like a lot of years growing up. And I think now too, as an adult, there's times where I definitely feel like, I'm not good enough or I'm invisible, but people are like, look at you, you're shining. And I'm like, but I don't feel that because, we have childhood wounds, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a real thing. And so, um, definitely my childhood wound that I'm still healing and still getting through is the fact that I am good enough and my voice does matter. But I believe the misconception is for sure that no one understood it. And so they judged it really quick, family members and people around me, and they treated me differently. And I think if anyone's listening to this and they have a kid with selective mutism, or having struggles that are a little different than others, and maybe there's no awareness, the best thing for the parents to do is to treat them like any other kid and allow them the safe environment to get through it. if, one day I have kids, when I do have kids one day, if my kid is going through what I went through, I would love to create a safe environment for my kid, remind them they're not alone in this and they can talk to me. And I think that is so important for any struggle, whether it's selective mutism, mental health, whatever it is. I think creating an open environment will remove the misconceptions and that are placed from people.
Was there anything that would have helped you when you were in school, like from an educator perspective, if a teacher had done something in particular in their classroom that might have helped you whenever you were experiencing selective mutism, and then later, like just anxiety and depression in general too, but anything that would have helped you, you're like, oh, if only they'd done this, that would have been really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I think education has a really big role in this, and there's no education, programs or systems in place for mental health. And I think growing up, if we're talking about like being a 7-year-old with selective mutism, having a teacher that understood that, which I did actually have a really good teacher in grade 1 that was, so her name is Miss Pinsoff, and she was so sweet and always telling me like, oh, you can whisper to me if you need anything. Like that was really great. But if we're talking about mental health in general now for teenagers and youth, I think a really big thing would be for the education systems to implement programs where we can, talk about mental health. They can learn, prevention programs for their mental health. That would be really, really important. But definitely, if a child is developing signs of selective mutism in school and preschool and kindergarten and grade 1, whatever it is, I think the best thing for the teacher is to, not pick them out and like force them to talk, but allow them to be in a safe environment where they can talk to you. Of course, not making them do presentations, don't ask them math questions, like be very considerate of what they're going through.
Mm-hmm. It can be when I was growing up, it was very like, if you're called on, you are expected to answer, period, end of story. And it did feel sometimes, and I was the kind of student who had no problem with that, but I had classmates who clearly were uncomfortable, who clearly did not want to be called on, like would physically, you could see them shrink in their desk whenever the teacher was trying to call on someone. And it really felt like some teachers wanted to pick on those people who didn't want to be called on. And I hope that it's better now than it was when I was in school. But I do think that there's a lot of education that educators need to go through when it comes to mental health and when it comes to helping students with this kind of thing. Because it's not very common. You said 1% of the population, like that's such a small number of people. But the number of people who experience anxiety, especially around public speaking, which is being called on in class is public speaking. And people don't always put that connection together. But I think there's a lot of education that really needs to happen for sure.
I agree with you. Yeah, the selective mutism, it's a really rare thing. And people can have selective mutism when developing trauma. Like it's not just kids. That's more common actually. Like selective mutism after someone getting assaulted or trauma in their life is when basically it's when something traumatic happens and it makes them go internal and they like can't talk or they don't want to talk. That is what's more common. But having a child birth out of the mom's wound and out in the world, that's too much description. But
All good.
late here. I'm tired. Okay, it's definitely late here. It's 10 o'clock. It's my bedtime. But basically, I don't know what I was saying.
That's okay. Listen, we get lost here so often. I have a command for getting sidetracked, so you're good. You're in good company here. But yeah, I mean, it for sure. Like there are different ways that you can get a lot of different conditions when it comes to mental health. A lot of it is trauma. That's a lot of reactions that you get out of people. Do you?
Where we're at. Yes, yeah, it's rare to have mutism as a child. Like from like 0 to like 7. That's where I was, like born to 7 years old. So that's more rare, and that's when less than 1% of the population has that.
Yeah.
So I think that seeing that it was so rare, it was really hard for anyone to understand how to help me.
Yeah.
getting at.
Well, and especially if you can't communicate that, right? Like if you can't communicate how to help you because you have selective mutism, I imagine that's really frustrating.
You can't write because you're young and you're a child and you're a baby, so it was definitely hard.
Yeah. Growling said, I think my teachers and principal thought I had the opposite of selective mutism. Why, where you just constantly talked? I mean, I definitely have a child who has that.
That's funny.
For sure. Reminder that we do have a question queue open. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. We'll make sure to address them. I love that they said, there's a couple people who said, I assume your doctor's name is Dr. McDoctorface. And then, no, it's Dr. Dre. Like, that's funny.
Hilarious. That is really funny. Oh yeah, because I said I'm not saying the doctor name.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. What was the turning point in your journey to finding your voice as a speaker and an author, especially after having had selective mutism? Was there a specific moment or a person or anything like that that kind of inspired you or sparked that change?
Definitely. I think that I remember my first speaking gig. I was 18 years old, and one of where I'm from in Canada, one of the, like, I'm in a little suburban town, and one of, like, the police officers found my book somehow and called me or emailed me to see if I wanted to speak at, like, their school for, like, a police event. And it was about, like, inspiring change and stuff like that. And I was 18 years old and I was so nervous. I just published my book and I was frightened. There was like 300 students in this like assembly in the high school and all these police officers. So I was like scared a little bit. And I remember like not wanting to go on stage, and because I had that fear of not talking because I never did presentations in school, so I didn't have practice speaking. I was like literally about to not go on. Like I was like, can't do this. I think it was one of the officers, the main one, that looked at me and goes, you know what, like you it's your time. Like you go up there and you shine and you tell your story. And it was probably the worst talk I've ever delivered in my life. It was so bad, but it was a really beautiful moment for me because I realized that I had an opportunity to make a difference and to help people. And so with that, with the opportunity to help people, became something I was very obsessed with. And so after that talk, even though I thought it was horrible, and it definitely was horrible, we can be honest there was a few students in the crowd that, you know, one of the students I remember, like, I'll never forget, she ran up to me and gave me the biggest hug and she said, you saved my life. I was thinking about ending my life.
Oh,
and
wow.
hearing your story was it saved me. It saved my life. I don't want to do that. I want to get help. I want to be happy. And so that was a moment for me where I realized, okay, that was scary. That was horrible, but I want to do it. I want to do more of this. I want to touch more lives. So more students like potentially be thinking of suicidal thoughts or going through something can know they're not alone. And so that was a start for me at 18 years old where I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And, you know, I don't think I'm the greatest speaker in the world, but at the end of the day, I speak from my heart, speak from my experience. Mm-hmm. And that's what resonates with people the most is speaking from the soul, speaking from what you've gone through, what you've been through, and connecting to people in the world, whether you're religious or you believe in a God or you believe in a higher power, whatever that is for someone. For me, we all have purpose and we all have a thing we got to do in this world. And so for me, my purpose that I believe God put on this earth for me was to help people who are going through struggles. And, you know, my struggles and the things I've gone through happened so I can stand on that stage and remind the hundreds of thousands of students and youth and kids around the world that they're not alone. And so, yes, it was frightening. I will never, you don't know the feelings, the shakiness, the sweatiness. Oh my God, it was frightening, but it was probably the best moment for me in my life.
That's great. And I'm so glad there was someone there to be like, I see that you're nervous. It's good. Like, you're fine. It's going to be okay. Just get out there and do it. Because sometimes you
pass out. Don't worry. We call an ambulance.
Exactly. I mean, you're in a room of first responders, right?
I don't know if there were paramedics there, but there was police officers.
Yep. At least they know how to contact them for sure.
But yes, call 911.
So you wrote this book at 15, and I want to take a moment because there's an ongoing conversation in the Discord community for us that regularly talks about, like, I feel like I haven't accomplished anything in my life and I'm this old and all that. So there is a tool, I'll have to look it up, but there is a tool that you can put in your age, or if you don't know what age to put in there, just put in a random age. And it will tell you people who didn't accomplish whatever their accomplishment was until that age in their life. So don't feel discouraged to hear that someone so young accomplished something so great, and
Yeah.
put that into the context of like your own age. People can accomplish great things no matter what their age. But to do it at 15, to write a book at 15 is very, very impressive.
Thank you.
What led to you writing that and deciding to share that story publicly?
I just want to say one thing that you said there before I answer that is that I want people to know that no matter how old they are or where they are in their life, yeah, definitely don't feel discouraged that someone at 15 wrote a book. I mean, we all in our lives, whether we're 30, 60, 70, 80, whatever time in your life that you're finding a moment where you're like, I want to do something with my life, that's the age that you're meant to be doing it.
Absolutely.
And to not feel discouraged when you see other people's success or wins. And wherever you are on your path today, wherever you are on your path tomorrow, whatever's meant for you will be. And I believe we all have a purpose. And so definitely don't get discouraged of seeing other people's age and what they're doing, because what you're doing in your life is incredible, because everyone has accomplished so much in their life and overcame battles. And so that's one thing I wanted to say. And then answering your question about who inspired me to write the book, it was actually my life coach at the time. I want to say life coach because she was like a therapist slash life coach. I found her when I was in my darkest, darkest moment in my life. I was 15. I had just almost attempted suicide, and it was the hardest time in my life, I would say. And I found her online. I did the whole Google finding a life coach or someone or therapist, and she popped up on Google. Reached out to her, and she lives in Toronto. Gave her a call, and she said to me, like, you're 15, you need your parents' consent. And that was the most awkward conversation for me because I never told my parents that I was going through depression and never told them about the attempt. That was a hard conversation to do, but I told them in front of her. And that was one moment. And then the moment of the lead up of the book was, I think it was a year of ongoing, or 6 months of ongoing sessions with her. She helped me find happiness. She taught me tools and things I needed in my life at 15 years old to overcome what I was going through. And so at one point where I would say I was in a good place mentally, she said to me, like, I believe it's time that you start writing a journal, and the journal could be an outlet for you. And then a few months later, she goes, it's time for you to take your journal and put it into a book, which became I'm Not Your Average Teen, the book I wrote. And so she pushed me and said, your story and your voice and your experiences and what you've gone through can make a difference for so many lives. And I was 16 and 15, 16. I was just turning 16 at the time. And she literally was like, you're writing a book. And I was like, no, I'm not. I don't want people to know what I'm going through. It's so embarrassing. I was one of those teenagers. I was like, no, we don't talk about that. The cool kids in school won't like me. But she was like, no, you're doing that. You're writing a book. You're putting it out there and you're going to make a difference. And so I became very, very dedicated on this book. And I, like, every day after school, come home, write it, work on it, even got a part-time job to help afford this book, and got an editor and cover and learned how to even publish it myself. I was so young. And so that's how it happened. And because of her, I'm on this path today. And, as frightening as it is, she helps me overcome those fears. And I remember the last conversation we had at that time was this whole idea that I felt like my voice didn't matter. And so didn't want to put my story out there because I felt like I wanted to be silent, like I always did as a kid. And she made me realize, like, are you a silent kid anymore? Or are you ready to speak up? And I was like, no, I'm ready to speak and I'm ready to share it with the world. And so that's how it happened. And that's how I wrote books.
Yeah, that's great. Do you still keep in contact with your life coach?
I think the last time we got in touch was a year ago, but
Yeah.
not really, but just because of life and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that happens. That happens with a lot of relationships. It's just like, oh, we used to be really close, or we used to talk all the time, and over time you just kind of talk less and less. That's totally understandable. I was just curious you know, if there had been any, did you thank them at all and say like, hey, this has been
Yeah,
great?
she was actually at my book launch. It
Oh,
was my 17th birthday, I believe it was. We had a cake and it was really beautiful with the books, and it was all my family, friends at the book launch, and she gave a speech about my journey, and I gotta find that speech because it's really beautiful, and it was really nice to have her there, her support.
yeah, that's very sweet. Given your early experiences with selective mutism, how do you handle the emotions around public speaking now?
It's a good question. How do I handle the emotions during public speaking? Yeah, for me, every time I go up and I speak, do public speaking, I always do a little prayer before I go up, and I basically put out there whoever I can help today. Like I pray, or I hope I can help someone in this audience, or whatever it is. I hope I can make a difference, and that kind of like grounds me a bit and takes my nerves away.
Hmm.
And then when I go up there, obviously I'm nervous, but my heart is racing fast, and I quiet that away, and I just focus on what I need to tell the audience today, what I need to say today, and that overshadows and takes over my nerves, and then it becomes a really beautiful thing.
Kind of putting that focus on the audience instead of on what you're feeling inside. I know everybody's
Hmm.
got different ways that they overcome emotions when they're doing public speaking. If it doesn't come natural, uh, I guess for some people they just do it and they don't have any emotions about it. That's not me. Uh, but everybody's got their different strategies and everything. So it's always interesting to kind of hear about that. What
Hmm.
about for anxiety and depression? Do you have any strategies that worked for you personally, or strategies that you found in your advocacy work that are particularly effective?
Definitely. For one, it's therapy. It's talking to someone. It's knowing your resources.
Yeah.
It's understanding that help is available. And I think what's important here for many people dealing with depression, anxiety, is knowing they're not alone and help is available, and not being ashamed to reach out for the help. So if anyone's in Canada, they can go to 988 hotline, and I believe 988 hotline is in the United States as well, which is really great. So that's number one, knowing your resources, knowing where the help is, and if you don't, and then the next thing also is knowing that you can always go down. You can go to community centers. You can go to schools. Like if a kid is dealing with struggles, they can go to their guidance counselor and talk about their struggles. But for sure, number one thing with mental health, depression, anxiety is getting the help, no matter how bad it is, because nobody should be feeling alone during their struggles.
Yeah. And I just did the command also. If you're interested in any sort of resources, you can go to any of those. And then also, if you go to tacosfallapart.com, there's a way to find resources worldwide. No matter where you are, you should be able to find something that can help you. So lots and lots of resources. And then I put the 988lifeline.org website as well. So any of those are great. There's a lot of hotline numbers and everything that you'll see on the screen. Anything that you could need, hopefully you'll be able to find something. And if you can't, please reach out because that's what we're here for. So now,
Exactly.
when you started sharing your story, did that change your perspective at all on your own mental health or on other people's mental health? Just the nature of sharing and getting all of that out there.
Definitely, sharing my story became a really beautiful thing to do, and the change in the nature of that was just the fact that I got to connect to so many beautiful lives and beautiful souls. And for me, the most incredible thing is meeting people all the time and hearing their stories and hearing their vulnerabilities. And I believe it's the most incredible thing in my job is that I get to meet and hear such brave souls all the time. And that's what makes what I do so incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And just hearing other people's stories and everything is why I do this. Because it's so much fun to learn about someone else's experience rather than read a book on a topic or something like that. It makes it so much more personal to be able to kind of connect with that one-on-one situation and everything. I know mental health advocacy has come a long way. We talked about that earlier. I also know that there's still a lot of work to be done, a lot of changes to be made. What changes would you like to see in the way that society approaches mental health, especially for young people?
Yes, for one, I believe that we need to take away the stigma around mental health, no matter what. I believe the shame needs to be removed. There's so many people that have unsupportive parents because their parents are old school and they don't understand mental health. And so that is something that we need to do as parents need to do better. As parents, we need to understand, be educated on mental health. And so if we're asking about the changes that people, society can do for mental health, it's simple. It's learning. It's about learning different ways about mental health, learning how you can better communicate with your kids or your friends, because the worst thing in the world is being too late. That's the worst guilt anyone could ever go through. And so doing your effort to be there for people, whether they say they need help or not, because most of the time when someone is struggling with mental health, they don't ask for help. It's simple, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that sums it up really well. It's just the education piece, which is something that that's come up several times in our conversation, just that self-education and making sure that that is available to a broader audience as well. Well, we are coming up on our last couple of questions. So folks who are here in the chat while we are live, feel free to ask anything that you want to ask. Make sure you get it in before we reach the end here. But I would like to go ahead and continue here with the next question, which is, what is your favorite life hack?
Oh, life hack. Well, there's a few things. Okay, as a young adult, it's so important to make appointments at the doctor's office. Okay, when you're 26 years old, life hack is don't wait for your mom to make appointments for you. That's just something I learned recently.
Yes, yes.
But really, the life hack is definitely going with the flow and being okay with changes, being okay with people coming in and out of your life, being okay with growth is a life hack for sure. Being okay with transitions in your life, learning as you grow, as you get older, you learn more stuff. Relationships happen, people break up, people are friends, they're not friends anymore. Like, as life goes on, we change and we evolve. And so I think the biggest life hack is going with the flow and being okay with the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And making appointments with your doctors.
Making appointments with your doctors. Yes. My oldest is 17, and we were talking about, you're about to turn 18. You're going to have to make sure you give me permission. Like, that's going to be an extra step. If you're not going to do it yourself, you're going to have to be on the phone with me, and we're going to have to be making these appointments like together. So we're starting to have those conversations of like, you're getting older. You're going to have to start doing this stuff. Let's make sure that you understand how to do it. And then also, if you need me to be on the phone and make those appointments with you, of course, that's something I'm willing to do. But yeah, making your own appointments is hard at first, for sure. But you got to get there. Most definitely.
And remembering you have that appointment is another thing.
Yes. Put it in your calendar. Immediately put it in your calendar and set a reminder. Absolutely. I would forget all of my appointments if they weren't in my calendar. 100%. Yep. All right, well, it's time for the magic moment. Let's see if it is working. Yay. If you could wave a magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception about mental health, what would it be?
One misconception about mental health is definitely that mental health makes you weak. I want to remove that. I think anyone with mental health, they are no different than anyone else. I think mental health is your strength. And so let's remove the whole judgment and the weakness. That mental health does not make you weak. It makes you strong. just means you have a heart and soul and you're going through something. So let's wand that magic wand on that.
100%. Yeah, everyone goes through something in their life. It just is the fact of life in general. So I love that. We got to be here for each other. Absolutely.
Yes, community is important.
Yep. Well, Brittany, I'll just open it up to you and say if there's anything we didn't talk about, any resources you want to throw out there. I will post your socials one more time, so if anyone is looking to connect, y'all can go ahead and do that through the links that I'll post here in just a second. But I'll just give you the mic and let you talk about anything we didn't get to cover today.
Thank you. Well, the only thing I want to say before we end this is if anyone is listening to this and you're going through some struggles, I want you to know that you're not alone and that help is available. And I know sometimes it feels hard not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring, and it feels, frustrating not knowing how you're going to sometimes maybe pay the bills, or if you're facing grief in your life and you lost someone you love, or you're going through a heartbreak, or you're going through some challenge or battle in your life, whatever it is, whether it's finances, relationships, personal, career, whatever it is, no matter your age, your height, your weight, your color, your background, I don't care. Whatever it is, we're all people. And I want you to know that you're not alone and that you are so strong and brave to make it to another day. And so if you are going through anything, it doesn't have to be extreme. It just means that you're going through something, to reach out to someone, to not be alone, and also to know that my door is always open and you can slide into my DM and we can be friends.
Absolutely. I echo that as well. If you're looking for people to connect with, you got two right here. So you're not alone.
Exactly.
Well, Brittany, thank you so much. This was a beautiful conversation. I'm so glad that we took the time to do this, and I'm glad that you were able to stay up for it. I know it's late for you.
Thank you. Of course, I'm up and going to bed now, everyone.
And that wraps up today's episode of Even Tacos Fall Apart. I want to give a huge thank you to Brittany for sharing her story and experiences with us. Her journey from living with selective mutism to becoming a powerful advocate for mental health is truly inspiring. I think what really stood out in this conversation is how deeply anxiety can impact our ability to express ourselves, and how misunderstood conditions like selective mutism often are. Brittany's experience highlights the importance of creating safe spaces for people who struggle with anxiety and mental health challenges. Whether you're supporting a loved one or navigating your own mental health journey, this episode is a reminder that healing is possible and that you are not alone. I hope Brittany's story resonated with you as much as it did with me. If you're feeling inspired or found something valuable in today's conversation, please consider giving the show a like, subscribing, and leaving a review or a comment wherever you're listening right now. It helps more people find these important conversations and join our growing community of support and understanding. If you or someone you know is struggling, remember that there are resources available. Reach out, connect, and know that support is out there. You can find more resources at tacosfallapart.com. Thanks again for being here and for being part of this conversation. Your support means the world to me, and I can't wait to bring you more real, raw, and honest stories in future episodes. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, you are not alone.